You'll find out if it's more sharp.
So the Zohar reveals for us in this verse concerning about an ox goring an ox, about the existence of these three embodiments of klipot. In other words, nowhere else in the Torah is there any mention of three. Nowhere else. And since the Zohar believes that the Torah is a code for vital information, so if this is what is known, then where did it come from? And therefore, he brings in these two verses here. כי בעת שהעולה קפצה עליו נתחברה ביסוד שלו, תקף פחה ממנה הנשמה דאצילות ונפל לעשייה ונגזרה עליו מסתר. In other words, the moment he connected with the tree of knowledge, at that moment he fell down to a lower level of consciousness, which is what the tree of knowledge is all about. He made this connection to the lower level of consciousness, where in this lower level of consciousness exists these three embodiments of the three essential klipot. And this is how he refers to the verse. In other words, it was now known to the owners of the ox, and they didn't take care, right? That is what the verse stipulates. He didn't take care. He was known. That is the relationship with Adam. Adam was told, here, in this tree of knowledge, is where the embodiment, where you will fall down to a lower level of consciousness, and there will be those three potential. They were potential in the tree of knowledge. These three potential life forces, negative life forces, that once you connect with them, you will bring them from a potential into an actual state. You know that. In other words, this is how the Zohar learns from that verse of that an ox gored 3 times, and it was known to the owner that he should be watching him. It was known to Adam that he should be watching, not to get involved with that situation. This is the connection. And therefore, everything that is mentioned in the verse of what to do with that ox is not discussing how to divide the spoils of the ox or how to divide the dead or gored ox. That's not what he's talking about. What he's saying is that the Or HaPriya Shehu Noga, remember the fourth one, which is called the Or HaPriya, the skin of the priya, that which has to be torn, which has to be divided. You remember we said in the verse it says, and half goes to one and half goes to the other. You remember the division of spoils? The word is chetzi. There the Zohar learns that half, the aspect of halving, of tearing aside, is referring to this fourth one. The fourth one. The 3, there is nothing that you can do. You put it to death. When it only happened once, in other words, it was not 3, meaning it did not contain the embodiment of 3. When it gored 3 times, what does it indicate to us?
100% that.
That it had that kind of, or not, it would never gore 3 times.
There is this level of...
It was completely, this, not that it reached, it was born with this embodiment of these 3 klipot. However, when it gores only once and doesn't gore again,
Nagach.
What does it mean in English?
What's gore? G-O-R-E. You know, the metados in Spain are gored by the... yes. All right. And therefore, if he had never sinned, this noga would never have been, also contained the evil and good. And therefore, this whole aspect, which I don't want to go into at this point, but when it says about division of the money, I'm not talking about division of money. It is referring to an ox that gores once, and you want to know how do you get rid of, if it's only once, how do you rid of it? Divide the ownership or split the ownership. Referring, this is a coded message, says the Zohar, for that membrane. Split it. And by splitting it, you have removed the aspect of this fourth called noga. Does everyone follow that? In other words, there are two kinds of oxen that the Torah is dealing with. One who gores 3 times is called a shor muad in Hebrew. He is already one that has been established as an ox that gores. And then there is the shor tam, is called. The simple one, only once or even twice, but once as opposed to 3 times. And in this ox of once, it tells you about, if he gores once, then you just divide it. You don't put it to death, you divide the value, but divide it. Divide it. Why? Again, what is the purpose of it for us today? Because this is what it informs you. That when there is an embodiment of a lower degree of negativity, there you do not have to remove it. Do not have to remove it. You have to make a kind of separation. And from there the Zohar learns, which is what we are concerned with, concerning this membrane, all that is necessary to remove the internal negative force of this membrane is to divide it. Now, I just want to make a mention.
We're talking about the fourth skin.
The fourth skin.
Cut off.
That's right.
It has to be
just split in half. Split in half. Not to be removed, just split in half. That's enough.
That's the priya.
That's the priya. That's called priya.
It's not to be removed. Once it's cut off, it's being removed.
No. You just have to separate the membrane. You don't have to take the whole membrane off. Don't take the membrane off.
But the sleeve that is still attached.
That is correct. That's correct.
So that's like, it's like cleaning.
It's like, that's right.
Separating
yes,
it from...
it's in one place. You just have to split it in one place. That's all.
But everywhere else is still connected.
No, then you
no, after the orla, the foreskin has been removed, this is still remaining, and this must be separated. If it is not separated, then the aspect of good and evil is still together.
Which is contamination also, isn't it?
Yes, but we are informed that merely by splitting it, you have removed the power of that negative aspect of the.
Then it's balanced. Then you have the good and evil.
And it's separated space.
It's not a force. It's not a force because, again, the negative force is only a life force as long as it is connected with the life force. Because by and within itself, it is not a life force. It is only a life force as long as it is connected. Now, today, there have been meetings, there are announcements in newspapers about these mohalim, the ones who perform the circumcision, not to do this. Again, because of the aspect of AIDS, and who knows, this child, as they suddenly discover, the child can be a carrier of the disease, and therefore they're concerned. So they're beginning to use, like dentists, these plastic thin gloves, but then they're still, but they can spatter. What's that?
Is there a problem with wearing gloves during the brit?
Not really. No. The wearing of the gloves by and within itself is no problem. But, so now they are beginning to hesitate in doing the priya altogether. What what will emerge from that is that we are learning that the life force, which could be removed, this klipat noga, and incidentally, all ailments, wherever they appear within the body, throughout the Zohar, you will see he refers to certain ailments as klipat noga. And so if you want to know what we're dealing with, he gives you the information on every part of the body, like in Parshat Pinchas, when he's discussing the aspects of the anatomy of a human being, and how it operates and where the problems arise and why they arise and so forth and so on. So from this ox goring another ox emerges a whole different concept. It is not discussing something which is irrelevant to us, but rather something which is vital.
When he separates, and when they suck the blood, I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead.
Right.
Is that where they have to suck the blood from?
Yes.
Separation?
There.
Okay.
How are we making the connection with the oxes through the noga?
The tam is noga. There are two kinds of oxen. The one that is called shor muad in Hebrew, which means the one who has already been who has gored 3 times, naga 3 times. He is the embodiment of these 3 klipot, which must be removed. Therefore, it's put to death.
No, what I'm asking is how we're making the connection between the breed and the ox.
The ox that gores 3 times is really referring to the embodiment of the first 3 klipot.
Oh.
And it tells you how to handle that.
Yeah, but how one that is reading, opening the Bible and studying?
It's irrelevant. Nobody has an ox today. You missed just that little part you missed in the beginning.
I'm saying if somebody really wants to study for the sake of study, he would not get to that.
He would not get to this at all. He would simply have an enjoyable pilpul, as they call it, in discussing, as the Talmud does, what would happen if I had an ox and you have an ox, and how we should conduct each other if one ox gores another ox, and therefore it's become irrelevant because, unless you have your own farm somewhere and you've got an ox, but for the most part.
My question, Rav, is through noga, the hint that noga isn't there. Are we getting to the ox story? Because the Torah says divide the money, right? Separate the money. In other words, it has a value. Separate. Half goes here and half goes here. Now we could be discussing the provisions of when an ox gores only once, what you're supposed to do, right? Take the money and separate it. The Zohar says it's a completely coded message for the klipat noga, that you want to remove that. When an ox gores, why does it gore? Is it normal for it to gore? I mean, maybe a human being can kill without reason, but an ox, if the matador didn't throw the red flag, it seems the wild bull wouldn't go for him, right? Or maybe it would go for him. But here, an ox is different than most oxen. It went ahead and gored an individual. Now, why did this ox gore the individual, or gore another ox? Why? It's within him.
What is within him? If it happens once, there's the klipat noga. That's why he's only goring once. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not. So he's not he's not completely enveloped with the 3 klipot, and therefore he only gores once. That's what we learn from this ox. What's the relationship between ox? Because, again, without getting into the details, Noga is Venus, and Noga rules over, and it comes out beautifully. When we discuss astrology, we say Noga rules over what? Taurus. Here, the Noga rules over the ox. It begins to make sense.
This is what I was trying to say, that the hint from the Kabbalah, basically, one studying is Noga, is the connection between our ox story, because it's truly sure the Kabbalah to break Milah.
That's right.
And if somebody is not studying, one's not studying Kabbalah,
He would have no interest unless if he was studying that tractate of the Talmud, which deals with the subject of an ox goring another ox. That's right. It's irrelevant because...
How you define an ox doing two times?
How? Because he has... No. He's Tom. He's still Tom. Twice. Yes. But the third time, then you know that this ox has an embodiment of the three klipot, which I mentioned, the Semet Kalachat and an Esh and Anan Gadol. I say we if we wanted to, we can spend a great deal more time on these three klipot. Anan Gadol, which means a great cloud. What does that mean, a great cloud? So the Zohar here is not going into the definitions of how we can distinguish, or how we can detect these klipot. Here we're not dealing with it. What he's trying to tell us here is there is one part of the male that embodies all of these four, and that is the foreskin and the membrane and the skin of Priya. That's all we're discussing here. Now, these four also in a much lesser, because it exists, it is found in an ox. It's not in the foreskin of the ox, right? It's in the ox. This klipa is also found in people. But there is no question that every male is born immediately with these four klipot. Now you might say, why did it happen? So he says one of the reasons is because Adam sinned, and when he came down to the level of consciousness of the tree of knowledge, he brought with him, and he brought out from a potential embodiment of infectious disease to an actual when he connected with it. And from that, and therefore the foreskin appeared, even though he was created at birth without the foreskin. So there are many things we learn, but I want to really complete the whole picture of Brit Milah together with Eliyahu Navi. But you realize now we can get into a greater detail of each section here. How did he bring upon himself? That is the way an individual brings upon himself. Also, he is born without klipot, and then all of a sudden black spots appear on the x-ray, right? Klipot appear on the x-ray. What brought them? What brings this particular klipa, this particular klipa, and this particular klipa, which in essence means disease. In essence means disease. Therefore, what was that, the supposedly cure for cancer, that very expensive, what's that? Not Laetrile. Laetrile is not from the foreskin. The other one. Interferon, right? They suspected, but I guess the Cancer Society didn't think it was worthwhile because they didn't come up with the idea. Interferon, they have found, so they claim, that by making use of the foreskin, they can use that as an antibody against cancer.
They can produce from the foreskin interferon, which is a drug that reacts on
right, does not destroy any of the good tissue surrounding the cancer, but just attacks the cancer itself. It's like the vaccine.
That's the same, exactly.
What's that?
The same design?
Yes, it's the same idea. But they said it was too expensive to produce, and so it kind of...
Does it go along with it?
What's that?
Does it go along with this?
Yes. Yes. It would, but that is also only a kind of... It's disappeared from the scene because it won't be necessary.
So, Rav, it's one to understand that the Olah itself, the physical part is not important. If Adam was created without one, and by him connecting with the tree of knowledge,
he brought it out from potential to actual.
Did he bring in physical Ola?
Yes. No, we're talking about the physical Ola. That's how we know about Brit Milah, the physical Ola. That's right. That's right. Well, in other words, where did it come from to begin with? This is a question that the Zohar raises and answers it for us. Now, why is it so important that we know where it came from? Because we can understand now, and again, this is all very superficial, where and how does a person contract the embodiment of these three diseases if he connects with the tree of knowledge. Is there a tree of knowledge here? Yes, we learn in the morning there is something called the tree of knowledge. It's the world of uncertainty.
Does it have anything to do with person all of a sudden something growing into his body?
Where does it come from?
It's already there. It's just in domain.
No, you connect with the
Because but once the let's say the foreskin has been removed, then why does a person then still develop and contract others?
With the
Somewhere in his activity, he is making again a connection with with the tree of knowledge.
Cancer cells are always present in good tissue. In every human being, cancer cells are always present.
That's right. That is known.
He's enhancing the negativity. Here we split the negativity and the positivity.
That's right.
By doing negative activities, he's...
If you want to get down to the bottom of it, but for those who do not attend the morning classes, what does division mean? Machzit HaShekel. It becomes mind-boggling. All of a sudden, the whole Torah has some meaning. What did we do on Purim? What was the antidote? We don't have oxen, and we don't have every day a noga that we can divide. We use Machzit HaShekel. I said we can go on now for the next 5 years in discussing every point, and it may be essential.
Well, we won't cover this.
Right. But
replaces the noga of the oxen?
of course.
Oh.
Of course. Of course.
But what we've learned last year is to drop energy down.
Because we are dividing, without getting into now the Machzit HaShekel, right? Then we would be discussing that aspect. But it shows you how suddenly the Torah begins to, everything falls into its place for the sole express purpose of how we can enhance the physical, not only the mental, but the physical well-being.
So this is the owner's manual, basically. We're born with.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But most of us do not read the manual anyway.
That's why we're initiating a new idea, and it's certainly worthwhile mentioning it. The scanning. When you scan, you have made your connection with the manual. And because the words are powerful, they work for you on another level of consciousness. Okay? Now, so this is the way he explains everything that we've discussed.
Well, to clarify one point with the interferon, it's a cure, but it's not a cure. I mean, I just wanted to clarify that. I mean, yeah, it'll take it away, but if the person has made the correction, it'll come back.
Well, it'll come back. That's right.
Sure.
That's right. And therefore, the proof of it is that in more cases than none, the removal of the cancer has not prevented the recurrence of the
Classic
cancer.
psychology. You take away one bad habit, it's replaced by another bad habit. Always.
Yeah, but it's
But even in cancer specifically, I mean, how many cases?
It works.
What's that?
It's
Because
worse.
sometimes it's localized. When you take that location from the body, then it spreads all over.
That's right.
Because you've cut it away.
That's right.
You haven't given it room
Surgery,
to manifest itself.
surgery, in fact, enhances more times than none the growth of the cancer cells.
To enhance.
No,
Right.
no.
Unless
It's
there
removed
is
entirely.
Huh?
Unless it's at a place it can be removed entirely. If it can be
It's
removed
out of-
entirely, if it's confined,
Here we are.
then it can be removed.
Like the breast cancer,
It can be removed.
I'm not doing that.
But if it's cut and not removed entirely, when they have to use chemo afterwards,
It's,
but it's one.
But the question is, do they really see
the first time?
that in an area that it's not exposed to it?
That's right.
Because we say that it's already contained
Yes.
to begin with. I mean, that cancer cell is maybe in a domain, in a potential level. That when a person is acting in a negative way, he's all of a sudden creating it from nothing.
Cancer cells
Right.
are always present in the body, all the time.
Right. So also like the AIDS is also probably there, sitting and waiting to be.
No, everybody doesn't carry the cells of syphilis or gonorrhea. I don't think.
Herpes we do.
Right.
No, in a
And they
potential
link
maybe.
herpes to cancer.
Maybe in a potential
All right.
level.
Half hour left.
Herpes zoster.
Yes. Yes. Okay. All right. Now, from this verse again concerning the ox, it also says, "V'gam ba'alav yumat." The owner of the ox doesn't mean he should be put to death. Of the ox which contain the three embodiments of klipot, even though, says the Zohar, the ox is put to death. Now he says, why, if you put the ox to death, should there then be, further remunerations on the part of the owner of the ox, since the objective was to remove this kind of disease within the community, and so it's removed. Answers the Zohar, because of this powerful force of this three goring oxen, meaning the embodiment of these three klipot, which is the Sam Hamakatreg, when we don't pronounce the name of the embodiment, the total embodiment of the three, Hamakatreg. In other words, because like Adam, he was told in advance that if he ate from the tree of knowledge, he would suffer this. He was apprised of the knowledge. And because he was apprised of the knowledge of its existence, he already, on a metaphysical potential level, made contact. Is that correct?
Metaphysically, yes.
Right? That means metaphysically on a certain level, while physically, by the removal of the foreskin, we have physically removed the three aspects, but on a metaphysical level, Adam was apprised that if he would eat, then he would be making connections. This connection of knowledge of the existence also is a potential cause for the recurrence of the same force again. The fact that you know, wait, no, we didn't say that yet. Meanwhile, because that was the case, in other words, when they cut out, let's say, the cancer, I would not say they did a good job of cutting out. I'm going to stretch it a little and say that if they say, well, now we'll watch and see, we'll wait and see, it could be that there are still cancerous cells, meaning the noga is still there, the good and evil, because not all cancerous cells create the disease of cancer. In other words, they are in this potential state. But after the operation, after the removal of the cancer, from what seems to emerge from the Zohar, the fact that there could be a conscious connection where the doctor says, well, now we have to wait and see whether there will be a recurrence, right? That by in itself injects the power and draws out the potential klipa of noga into an active. Why do we call that noga? Because it's not evil, it has potential of evil. So it's good on one part that it doesn't kill. So it has a certain form of restriction. It does not go out and kill. On the other hand, it has the potential, so it's noga. How do you remove that? That is still there. when we tear the Priya asunder, the knowledge that contains Klipat Noga is present. That knowledge is also it also draws out, I should say, that potential force. While it's not actual, but it makes it present. Being conscious of its existence was enough to make its presence felt. Even though the foreskin was completely removed, even though the priya, the membrane was split, but the fact that the existence of this force exists and existed does not remove the presence of it. Removed by the physical removal of the foreskin and the removal of the priya. So we still have a problem, says the Zohar. We still have a problem. Even though you gored the ox, right? That's how the Zohar learns it out from this verse. You stoned the ox. The ox is gone. There's no more embodiment of klipot here. Why does the owner still have to be dealt with? He still has to make retribution. Why? Because he had knowledge. Like Adam had knowledge of its potential force. The fact that there is knowledge of a potential force makes that force an active force, and that way, that evil force can be mekatreg, meaning it can become involved in the well-being of the individual. From these two verses of ox goring an ox
You mean to say that the warning of God not to made the Noga
was enough to make a connection. That's right. So the fact that it was removed was not sufficient to have it completely removed. Because what about the knowledge? That is not a physical entity. The knowing is not physical. The physical part, you stone the ox, you kill the ox, you remove the foreskin, you cut the priya, the membrane. But what about the knowledge of its existence? How do you remove that? You know what emerges from this? That in these operations, if they still think the possibility of a wild cancer cell existing, and it was not removed, brings it out.
But they do radical, right?
Which puts us
Brings it out.
in no Noah.
What's that?
It puts us in Noah.
Right.
Right. Can we say the actual was removed, but potential never was removed?
That's correct.
The Star of David.
That's right. That's right. So how is that removed? Yes.
So what you're saying is the worry is what brings it back, don't you think?
Yes.
Doctors worry or the patients
Yes.
worry?
Patients worry.
Okay. Now the doctor's worry or the patient's worry, both can. I'm not sure. I would say the patient's worry, because in that ox gores another ox. Who is responsible? The owner is responsible. What about all the other people who now are aware of this ox having gored 3 times? Their knowledge of this actual disease that existed was not what has to be dealt with, but gam ba'alav yumat, the owner of the ox, is the one that is perpetrating now the extension of this disease.
And the owner is us.
And the owner is us. A very good observation.
And the ox is the disease.
What's that? The ox was the physical disease. He was the embodiment of the physical disease, and therefore it was manifested by goring.
Yeah, but Harav here, the owner is the doctor as well as the patient. And
Well,
doctors,
okay.
yes. Because
Yes.
he could have done something prior to his results scoring someone else's score. In that case, he's also the doctor and also the
All right.
the one
Well,
carrying the disease.
Is this also one of the reasons why they're saying when an ill person is desperate, so he's bringing his end faster because he's not strong enough to fight his
yes,
own?
this is the point he's making.
But
This is the
are you
point
saying
you
that
make.
all the Jews lived under Klipat Noga until they entered Eretz Yisrael? Because they never did Priya.
Yes.
Can't hear you.
Yes.
We're saying that all
That's right.
Jews lived under Klipat Noga
That's right.
until we entered Israel, because Priya wasn't
It was Joshua
done until after we
that's
entered
right.
Israel. Not in the
But they could have lived with it outside of Israel, but in Israel they could not live with the Klipat Noga.
They did the mitzvah.
They had to do the Priya. Okay, but that's another aspect. Now, in order to now we come to the answers to some of our questions concerning the importance of Elijah. Now we will understand what Elijah is doing here and why he's here.
At the bridge?
At the bridge, yeah. We still didn't get to the part of flying. There's a beautiful section on it. All right. Now, in order to correct this situation that we've just discussed, the knowledge, which is the connection, Eliyahu took the embodiment of this thought disease by the hand, v'kitregal b'nei Yisrael b'mkom asam. Remember we said, Elijah said the Jews have abandoned circumcision, right? They have abandoned it. That was a ploy, says the Zohar.
That was the physical beginning.
That was a ploy. What was the ploy? Since Sam is the name of all metaphysical negative energy, negative activity. In other words, Sam is the potential, and the snake or the physical is the manifestation. And the physical manifestation has been dealt with through the circumcision, the physical circumcision, and now we're dealing with another problem. Have we completely removed, even though you cut away everything? What about sometimes it recurs again? And not always is it due to the fact that they failed to cut out everything. There are times when it recurs again, they don't know why.
As it did in the first time.
What's that? As it appeared the first time. That's right. How would you answer why it appeared even the first time? The reason we can assume of why these things are happening in the first time is the connection with it. One of the ways is the worrying. Oh, cancer is so prevalent. Chas v'shalom. How do I know we can escape from it? That itself, and by and within itself, is already a connection on that metaphysical level. So informs us the Zohar. Insofar as circumcision is concerned, it was dealt with. How was it dealt with? By Elijah. He handled it. He first came out and said, Jews have abandoned circumcision. He was ostensibly creating potential negative energy. When Sam heard that, he says, well, I'm here to dispense with my wares, spread disease, right? On that metaphysical level. Along comes Elijah, says, look, I'll handle it for you. You got other things to do. Attack people elsewhere on another level. This matter, leave to me. I'll do a better job than you. Why? Because I'm not even represented as the devil. You're the devil. So if you say those things, I'm going to say it. The Jews have abandoned, and I will create such negative energy surrounding the Jew. And so it was a ploy, says the Zohar. And what did he say? They left the Brit. The Jews left the Brit. In other words, by so proclaiming, he closed the mouth of Sam. Meanwhile, right? And therefore Sam felt he had no reason to continue here. He'll go elsewhere. Then, and another tremendous lesson, then, says the Zohar, Elijah has the power to turn the katega, which is the prosecuting or the damaging attorney, and turning him into a sanega, into a defense attorney. At the time when he sees that they are fulfilling the precept. What does that mean? We say that Elijah has to be at every brit, right? Because he is the mouth, remember in the beginning, he is the mouth that said Jews are abandoning the precept of circumcision, and therefore we ask the question, and therefore Elijah has to be present at every brit. We said, so is that a punishment? It is not a punishment. Because he took upon himself as a ploy to be the damaging attorney. It was only a ploy that once Sam had disappeared, he's going to take that same negative energy, and then turn it around and say, but look, God, you see, here they're doing it.
So it's the metaphysical mind.
So he's taking a negative energy intelligence. That's right, the Klipat Noga. He's taking that negative energy intelligences, which he now is in control of, because he was the one who said, look how bad they are. And now that same person is coming and saying, good. That you see, so he does not come because we tell him to come. He wants to come. He wants to come. So it is not a punishment because he said Jews are bad. And therefore, if you ask all the other people who know something about circumcision, why do you say here is Elijah? Well, because he once proclaimed evil about the Jews, and therefore as his punishment. That is absolutely incorrect. It's a total corruption.
It makes us part of the conspiracy.
That's right.
What about the chair?
We'll come to it right away. But meanwhile, to assume that he is being punished, right? To assume that he is being punished is a corruption. On the contrary, he took away the job of the damaging attorney, who was Sam, and came himself. But he must say all the time, you see, they abandoned. But then soon as Sam hears, he's saying they abandoned the precept, what happens? Because it is known to him that they didn't observe, he's saying they didn't observe. He is connecting in essence, we'll never finish to the end. He is connecting in essence to what? To that negative energy intelligence which makes the connection, right? The known. Adam knew about the tree of knowledge. This person now is aware that his ox is goring. The word huad, knowing, right? He knows. Elijah put himself into that position. He also knows. And so how did he connected with that aspect? Knowing that the force that Adam once created, that still stays on with us, that is still present here. Even though the Noga is split, but we ask the question, what about the knowledge? That also is a force, and in fact that's the force that makes cancer cells spread. The knowing that it could do evil, knowing that the tree of knowledge also contains evil, created and established that metaphysical force called Sam. How did he connect with that, Elijah? By saying, Jews, abandon circumcision. He now has knowledge of what? Of the evil of the Jew. They abandon. He's now in that place of Sam, in that place of negative energy. And therefore, continues the Zohar. Aside from the chair of the Sandak, which I don't know whether we'll get a chance to discuss him, but the Sandak is obviously very important. Because on the Sandak, that is the person who holds the child while the brit is taking place. Now, why is he called Sandak? Because it's Sanega Nasa Katega. It's an abbreviation. This Sandak is a code word
Ain't it nice to know Hebrew?
That the Katega is becoming the Sanega.
He's the aid for Hillel.
He is the one who should be conscious of the idea.
That's right.
In other words, the one who is holding the baby is not just an honor you give to the
father,
this individual.
Don't you gonna have a fight?
But what's that?
Is it commonly accepted anachronism, Sandak?
Yes, yes, but they don't know what it means. They don't know what it means. I mean, why is this person holding this child going to be a damaging attorney? I mean, if he's the father, does he mean evil for the child?
What does it mean in English? Everybody wants to know.
I just said
He's the one
he also represents the damaging attorney, but he will also have in his mind that, look, they're not, Jews have not been doing these things, and they have a certain amount of evil within them. And because he is in that position of holding this child, while the foreskin is being removed, right? He says, but there's still a little evil. You mean the foreskin is cut, therefore there's no more evil in this child?
A sandak has to go through.
Child develops evil along the way. So he has to go through the same thing.
Elijah resides in the Sandak?
That's right. He has to know what he's doing. That's right. What's that? No.
He's going to be the synagogue.
That's right. But on the physical level, he represents, as Eliyahu will represent on a metaphysical level. Katega Nase Sanega.
So Sandak is as important as the Mohel is ostensibly the father or Mohel.
Well, even more so.
More so, right.
Even more so.
Wow.
Rav, can we say
It's in his hands. Because all the Mohel is actually doing, and he should know what he's doing. Not all Mohelim, not all people who perform know what they're doing.
Rav, can we say by removing the foreskin we take the actual?
That's right. The physical.
In order to remove the potential, we need Eliyahu.
That is correct.
What he said they are not aware of it. They are not doing it.
That's right.
They're not removing the potential.
Right.
That's what he's referring to.
That's right.
So the guy who holds the baby, because 8 years old baby doesn't have a conscience.
8 days. 8 days.
8 days. So he doesn't have a conscience, so the person who holds him is calling the Eliyahu to remove the potential.
If he knows what he's doing.
Is it supposed to be already the father that holds?
What's that?
Is the father already?
Does not have to be the father. Does not have to be the father, or someone of a spiritual nature. That's right.
Gotta know what
and know what he's doing. He performs a very vital function in the removal of all of this negative energy.
Otherwise, you bestow the honor on somebody that doesn't know what the heck he's doing there.
Most people don't know it.
No, that is correct. That is correct.
Among others.
What's that? Didn't come to it yet. Wait. Okay.
What works for one should definitely work for the other one. If it's working for the other, it shouldn't work. The same system should work for Sam.
Sam is busy trying to develop and make manifest as much negative energy as he possibly can. Right? And if he has assistance, then why his presence is not needed?
Yeah, but he's hearing this now too.
What? But he's left. The minute he hears, remember, he is connected to one aspect, and that is negative energy. The minute, and this is actually the reason for taking the first piece, it's going to be discussed. Why does he leave? He's going to be listening to all of this. We didn't come to it yet. Okay? You're asking, but he's going to be listening to all of this. Mm-hmm. Why is it?
That's why the kiseh.
Will we be able to finish all this? I doubt it. What? He heard this many times, right? So why is he leaving? Go ahead. Good question. Good question. Was there another question?
No, go.
Okay. A good question. Okay. Now, despite the chair for the sandak, we also establish another one for Eliyahu. Mm-hmm. Now you can ask, why isn't one chair enough for both? I mean, first of all, you're talking about Elijah, who's not physical, right? Let him sit on the sandak slab, right? You know, I mean, he's metaphysical anyway. What's the problem?
About the baby.
Okay? What is the purpose of a chair? Those who learn in the morning, what is the purpose of the chair? What?
Just get away, Sam. Justice.
Oh, you mean when he sits on justice? When does he sit on justice? The 7th month, right?
I think.
What? So what does the chair represent? Malchut. Right? The 7th month. Okay. All right?
To bring him into potential, to bring him into the state of potential.
What is the purpose of all of this? The ultimate purpose? The Tchilat HaTikun, so that the life force, what we call Or Ein Sof, should dwell over this child. And how does the life force emerge as a life force? If it can be released from being captured by the klipot. Removing of the klipot is the beginning of the life force emerging as a force. Therefore, the surgeons think if you cut away the black part, you cut away the klipa. But there, the klipa is not a klipa, meaning like the embodiment of the foreskin. Over there is another matter, but we'll leave that alone. But meanwhile, we're discussing the foreskin. The beginning and the cutting away of the milah and the priya is the beginning of the revelation of the life force, and the reason for Elijah's testimony is for another purpose entirely, because that which has been revealed by the removal of the foreskin and splitting of the membrane has nothing to do with another aspect called that metaphysical connection with negative energy. The knowledge which was created by Adam, which still continues on with us to this day. Therefore, this connecting of this knowledge, now you can connect many ways with this force of the tree of knowledge, as Adam did, because once he established that connection, we can also continue to establish that connection. To remove that is now another matter entirely. So when we ask, why do we need two chairs? Chair is not significant. The chair also is to represent a place where we can make total revelation. One chair deals with the physical, meaning not physical chair, but we need something on a physical basis, because what is below is above. So we establish the revelation of Malchut on one level, meaning the physical level, and now we need another chair for that individual who is going to make the revelation of the life force, meaning releasing that life force from any embodiment of klipot. That is going to be handled by Elijah. And therefore we have another chair, meaning another malchut we develop with the chair. It's a physical action. When you do an action below, it arouses above. You flip the switch. What did you do? You turned on the electric current. Flipping a switch is that, but that's what we learn in Kabbalah. Little physical actions can create metaphysical actions. So this establishment of the chair of Elijah is for what purpose? Is to bring Elijah, or bring that concept of Elijah here, to remove that one drawback that was created by the knowledge of Adam, knowing that there was a tree of knowledge. We want to remove that, the knowledge, the force that creates cancer right there in that position where the Brit is. Therefore, Elijah has another function. It is not the same function as the sandak. The sandak deals with the physical aspect. Eliyahu, as we said, is now dealing with the metaphysical, the huad babalav, with the knowing the owners, which is the literal translation, but it means the ones involved were familiar with an aspect called the tree of knowledge, Adam, and so are we, At times, when we're familiar with the aspect of disease, of a particular disease, if we begin to concentrate and focus in on that, what we are in essence creating is that metaphysical connection, which ultimately becomes manifest on a physical level. In other words, why did the foreskin come into existence in the first place? What was the reason? Because of his knowledge that the tree of knowledge contained the embodiment of this force. When he physically ate, it became physically manifested. When he thought that he was going to connect with the tree of knowledge, he already made that connection on a metaphysical level. So the implications of what he's saying is so mind-boggling. But it teaches you something. It teaches you something.
You can't even think anymore.
It teaches you something, all right? Okay?
Rav, I noticed maybe it's silly, but what went on before Eliyahu?
Wait.
Okay, 1 second. So that's what he's coming. And therefore we need the two chairs. I'm skipping. Therefore he needs the two chairs to have a total revelation both on a physical and a metaphysical level. And that's the chair of Eliyahu. Now, why do we have to exclaim this at the Brit? I mean, I don't know if at all Brits it happens. Someone is supposed to call out, "This is the chair of Eliyahu." What's that?
Pesach, you have to open the door.
But here you have to, look, you just designate it. Let it be there. You put two chairs there. That's not enough.
A free choice?
What's that?
A free choice?
Well, let's see what he says. You must proclaim that chair as the chair for Elijah. Why? Because, says the Zohar, even though we would put even though you put the chair there, but you did not proclaim this as the chair of Eliyahu, says the Zohar, he will not be there.
Right.
Why? She sod pumei de Eliyahu, the mouth. How was Elijah doing away with? I'm giving you all, this is all superficial. Now you understand we can go deeper into the implications on how we can deal with diseases maybe today. It's a possibility. But in any event, we said that by Elijah declaring, using his mouth for the purpose of getting rid of Sam. Is that right?
Yes.
How was he getting rid of him? Through the mouth. Through the mouth. So how do I do an action? If I put a chair there but did not make use of my mouth, I would not make connection with Elijah's mouth. So when I declare this is the chair of Eliyahu, I'm making a connection with the mouth of Elijah. That's how I bring him in. I'm not bringing Elijah. He can be here or not be here. I mean, he's an invisible, metaphysical force. I mean, he's drawing positive energies for us, or no energies, and so the negative energies that surround the Brit is going to be there only if Elijah will remove it. How do I draw down Elijah? Putting the chair there and saying, well, without proclaiming? No. Says the Zohar, I have not made that connection. I have not made that connection of mouth to mouth connection. And if I don't make that connection mouth to mouth, despite the fact that I have put to place another chair, which everybody may even know is really for Elijah, but if you don't proclaim it, you have not made connection to Elijah's ploy on how he is going to remove that metaphysical aspect.
It's like the matzot of Pesach.
That's right.
That's correct. That's right. What's that? Right. All right, we're not finished. We didn't even touch the bottom of it. Okay. All right, but we'll stop over here.
The next session.
More on that. It seems interesting.
It's fascinating.